All right. Hi, my name is Richard.lesperance. I go by the name of my man Richard. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. Today I have the pleasure to have I forgot to ask you you guys' name because I didn't want to mess up your name. I know one is Brea.
Yes, Bria and Shay.
Okay. Hi guys. Welcome to the podcast. Like I said before, it was pretty chaotic on my side with the situation. So we'll try to do our best with the situation. So introduce yourself. Talk to us about yourself. What do you guys do? I saw your guys' profile. So if you could, I know you guys are doing fintech and all that, the building wealth situation. So talk to us about that.
All right. Well, we're the co-founders, husband and wife of a brand called Legacy X. And essentially, we focus on identity development and wealth empowerment. And our focus right now is on Black excellence, but we want to expand to cultural excellence as we grow our brand. A lot of what we do, we call ourselves a cultural technology company in the sense that we want to use apparel to tell the stories of cultural icons that we weren't taught about in school per se. So like the Ya Asante Was, Martin R. Delaney's, to some large extent, even the Malcolm X's of the world. And we want to get people introduced to the legacies of those legends and use that as a funnel to inspire them to build out their own legacies. And that leads them into what we call our House of Legacy, where we use fintech, or we like to call ourselves wealth architects, but we use life insurance products to develop generational wealth and learn more about what type of policies people need in place so that they can create generational wealth for themselves and for their families.
Okay. Would you like to add anything else, Brea? Or
No, I think that definitely sums it up, and how we're doing it, why we're doing it. But we're super excited to just be sharing the knowledge and educating families and people that we come across. And so we're on a mission work now versus just trying to accumulate. We're on this path of just doing hard work, and so that's what drives us.
okay, you guys, I saw you guys incorporate fashion in the mix. So talk to us about that.
Okay, so fashion for us, we were looking for that unique vehicle. Whenever you start off building a business, you're always looking for that UVP that's going to separate you from everybody else, right? And specifically thinking from a technology standpoint, or I have a background in stock equities trading. So you're looking for disruptive companies. So it was what companies or what industries could be disrupted. So when we looked into apparel, it was about how could we use apparel because apparel is so much tied to identity and how you feel. Your style is your unique style. How could we use that to tell stories and let people say, well, I identify with this cultural icon? For example, within the African community, especially like during that time when the Black Panther came out, when you had T'Challa and oh man, why am I forgetting my man's name? But the bad guy essentially in the first Black Panther movie was a are you more Malcolm X or are you more Martin Luther King kind of style? So having those kind of cultural you could call them debates allowed us to kind of see like, okay, people have different identities within the culture of who they feel that they relate to. So we wanted to use clothing to do that. And what we came up with was a way of putting QR codes on the clothes and what we call legacy badges, which is a uh, artificial image of the cultural icon. And we're allowed to do that because if you took a copyrighted image of the cultural icon, there could be problems with the families or the estates. But if you take a AI-driven artistic expression of the cultural icon, you are allowed to use that as an artistic expression in the clothing. And therefore, we could leverage that to build out a series of cultural icon stories. So when you scan the clothes, you could see the story of that cultural icon. Right now, you can read the cultural icon story on our website, but we're moving it so that it's going to be a cinematic film style where it'll be narrated by us, but you'll see cultural representation or AI representation of that cultural icon in the clothes, which will then filter you into legacy building. So after you select the apparel that you want, the cultural icon that you feel you identify with, we'll ask you more questions about how would you like to start building your own legacy and what predictable systems do you have in place to build that legacy. And in doing financial services, we've learned a lot about predictable systems and how if we just culturally protect ourselves with tools like life insurance, we can have predictable outcomes of where our future will be 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Okay.
Yeah, and to add to kind of when we were looking at the fashion piece, we are no way by any means fashion designers. And so we knew that, coming in, we're not, super creatives in that element, but we did know like growing up, um, as children, we when the Shacks came out or, Jordans were still popping still today, but all the different clothing and trends that were out there that we followed and still do as adults, or even our little girls do the same thing. That is just that is one of the pieces or elements of our culture that people just identify with. And that's with any culture that you have. They're identifying with something with what they're wearing. And so as we were kind of figuring out how to design like the type of clothing that we really wanted it to be something that was very simple. Things that Che and I are both like athleisure wear all day. We're in the Pacific Northwest. Athleisure is the staple of the Pacific Northwest in Seattle. And so we want it to be very simplistic, comfortable, but at the end of the day, it makes a statement. And so the statement is the icon, the legend that they can actually scan, but the logo is just so simplistic that it might catch your eye, it might not, but for those who actually might see that there is a code or QR code to scan, it piques some interest. And so that's why we chose fashion as that gateway into the technology and throughout that Che just mentioned.
Yeah, and even to expound on that, since you're asking specifically about the apparel and the design, uh, in looking at tech, it's about simplicity, right? Like literally, it's that less is more approach. So in designing the pyramid for us, it was all about legacy and standing the test of time of legacy, like we see the pyramids in Egypt and Giza, right? But then we added another touch of, if you can see our logos, this is a fingerprint, and the pyramid is made out of a fingerprint. Fingerprint deals with identity. So the identity and your legacy lasting a lifetime, which is where we get the name a legacy from. And then we took the a legacy X in reference to Malcolm X because the X represented the unknown. So we wanted to say, what could the potential of your legacy be? And then from a fashion standpoint and trying to keep it simple, it was about what could be a highlight. Like when you think of the Louis Vuittons or even Nike, Louis Vuitton is known for the LV, so they're always going to use their monogram, right? Nike's known for the swoosh that actually comes from the Nike goddess or the Nike god and the wings on the shoes. So what we did was we wanted to have a representation of the time, because as human beings, time is the most valuable thing that we have. So we put time is represented on like the sleeves, and you'll see that this is the actual legacy dates of the person that you're choosing to identify with. So we wanted to get the year that they were born and the year that we died, because that is a symbol or that tells the story of their legacy and their identity. So we were trying to take these small things, highlight them in a simple way, but have a very big impact as we begin to tell a story.
What are your guys' thoughts on AI and the opportunities now in the future?
I mean, I think it's awesome. I love the fact that there is just all this technology that's being woven into everything that we do. It helps us think faster. It enables us to do things at a quicker pace. And so even for us, when we think about the type of businesses that we do, it's just helping us become better business people. We're implementing other technologies like augmented reality and VR. We're kind of looking into those options as far as woven into our clothing. I think AI is kind of it's going to be here to stay, and it's always going to advance. And similarly to how in the early 2000s, when the internet was wild, that's what AI is this time around. And it's just there's going to be new iterations every year at a faster pace. And so we just have to embrace it. I know some folks are like, no, no, no AI, but if you learn how to use it and you learn how to make it work for you, it will. You just have to know that that's what you want to do with it.
I think AI creates the speed and pace of innovation. I think that we're moving into a faster paced world, and the goal becomes, can you keep up? So we have to be able to use these tools. For example, if we use something like ChatGPT, we're looking to be able to build out business plans faster. We're looking to get to the point with how we execute a particular brand or drop or strategy faster. So because the speed of innovation is going to be what these businesses that are coming up in this new era are going to be all about, AI is going to allow that speed of innovation to happen much faster. And you'll have probably smaller think tank teams that are using AI tools to
Yep.
create that speed faster. And as long as we have ideas, I think when you go to these different seminars or these different events, they're talking about AI is the brush, but the human behind the AI is still the artist. So it's about creative thinking and applying your creative thinking with using an AI tool to achieve the desired result. So AI helps us tell stories much faster so that we could, as we're building out what we want to do with our YouTube channel or even cinematic endeavors and cultural storytelling, we can do it faster, which allows us to execute faster with a smaller team because we can just hit and we know everything that's supposed to happen right there. Even something as simple as building out a script, something that took a month can now happen in about 24 hours.
Do you think it breaks the barrier of like when we talk about entrepreneurship, like the financial barrier for people to enter in business?
It's a good question. You want to start?
I was going to say, I think it absolutely does. I mean, the fact that, especially just kind of the business that we're in, having people previously years ago, they would have to fill out policies that took them, 60 days to get approved, and who knows if they even were able to get approved because maybe some sickness happened, or maybe there was maybe they passed away while they were trying to get approved, or when you're looking at what we're doing today, the technology that is available for people to be able to be approved, within 10 minutes versus having to wait that 60 days. And that technology is allowing people to be safer in this instance. And for us as in the financial services, it allows us to help people at a faster, quicker pace. And so it is going to be something that we should embrace for sure. But when it comes to the consumers and how they purchase and buy, that's all things that we as business owners can look at as well. The consumer behavior, it helps us kind of determine what that interest is. It helps us determine where they're actually falling off on a website. There's so many different things that you can implement that will allow us to just embrace that digital transformation and that footprint that we're looking to make in the online community and in the world. And so, and then it connects us across countries as well. So go ahead, Che, with your answer.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the biggest thing to realize about using AI or using it as a tool for you is AI is driven by data. The more real world data you give AI, the more the more it becomes applicable or applicable, I should say, and the better the desired result is because it's grabbing that data from real world sources. So we see things like this in what NVIDIA is doing in collecting data. We see things like this in what Tesla's vehicles are doing with what they call their vision tactics as far as collecting real world data. All of that is funneling and teaching an AI brain how to become conscious. It more so becomes how we as the humans on the other end of that want to use that data to achieve a desired result. So, for example, if we're to use AI, but we want to figure out why are African Americans, why do we spend the most, but we make the least in America? And now we have data that will show whatever systemic problems may have arisen from that, whether it's things that happened from the past, like slavery, Jim Crow, the fact in even the insurance industry, African Americans couldn't even receive insurance, or we were given higher bills or premiums on our insurance because we were considered to have lower lifespans, if you will. Knowing those stories with
And
the
we were property.
and we were property, knowing those stories with the data that's attached with those stories and how somebody was able to accumulate wealth faster, we can now leverage that when we want to go out and tell a story to our own people to say, okay, based on the data that we have and that we know that we gathered in a matter of hours, here's a plan that we put together using AI tools so that we could combat this problem and say, look, if we're spending over $1.7 trillion in a consumer way, but the dollars in our communities don't even circulate for 17 hours, we need to find a way to keep money inside of our community. Here are the things that our people like to shop and buy. Here are the things that our people need to begin to sell to each other so that we circulate money through our community to rebuild this kind of, we'll call it Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street effect. So we have to begin to think about the outcomes that we want and use AI to produce the innovative solution. And then we still, as the human beings, need to implement that solution. So AI can absolutely help you build a business, but it's all about the creativity that that small group or that think tank or that individual came together with and said, this is the problem that I want to solve. Because ultimately, if you're building a business, you should be building on the fact that you want to solve a problem or you want to be a solution to something that you see needs fixing.
Now, one of the biggest problems is when it comes to business is access to capital. What are some creative ways, creative financing that you guys could tell people, like for people who are struggling with access to capital?
There's a couple of different ways that we have gone around about it. There's a lot of new type of funding organizations that have spurred, I don't know if it's in the past couple years, but it's what we've been privy to over the past couple of years. I don't know how long they've actually been doing this, but if anyone is familiar with CDFI, those are community development financial institutions where specifically people of color who have been either redlined for getting business loans or maybe they don't have the right or good credit. But the community development financial institutions, they mostly go based off of giving out business loans for organizations who have made an impact in the community. And so the way that they are scored is not just based off of a credit score, sure, it is a element, but that's not the heaviest weight that they base it off of. So if you are, as a business owner or a startup, doing heavy work in the community, you're showcasing this on your social media, your story is aligned with for the greater good of the community, a CDFI will look at that and weight that way more as a higher score for you in order to actually be considered for a loan. And typically, those type of institutions will fund up to about $50,000. So it's not chump change for a startup organization. It is something that can really help you catapult your business. Another funding source that they can look at is and more specifically, this organization called Kiva, spelled Kiva, where, and they probably have multiple of these, but this one's particularly that's heavy in the Pacific Northwest. They actually go out. It's like a crowdfunding raising application where you go, and the first step to actually showcasing your business to them is to say, hey, if you want to raise $25,000, show us that you can actually do something to raise. You can do something. You have some type of clout in the community, and so you go out and you say, hey, to 25 people, depending on how much you want. I need $25 to raise to be able to showcase my efforts in being a capital raiser. And so those 25 people get $25. That shows Kiva specifically that this is something that you as an organization are able to go out and promote yourself. And then what they do is they approve you to the next step. And the next step would be for you to go out and or you get a picture, you have a profile and a bio, and they push it across the world. And there's different funders from different sources that come onto this platform, and they are just funding at $25, $35, $100 at a time. And because of your story. And so a lot of this is around now based off of the brand that you have, not just the idea, but who is it behind the brand, the company, the product, or the service that you're selling. And that's what allows people to come and fund you. And so then you get that amount of money. Kiva says, great, you're fully funded. And as you begin to pay back that amount then goes to the different funders. So it's a sense of crowdfunding, but it allows you to talk to different strangers rather than you having to go put out a notice on, I don't know, your Facebook or your LinkedIn. And that's just the internal network that you have, but it connects you with international networks. And so kind of finding different ways that can allow you to expose you into different communities and cultures and countries, and utilizing CDFIs or organizations like Akiva would allow you to get that capital or that access to capital a lot quicker. And and stuff like Kiva, I think they even go up to 25,000. So that is just one way. Another way, one last one that I think, Che, we have
Yeah.
out here called the Pacific Northwest Business Impact Center, where they utilize, they get these small businesses and startups capital ready. And so what that means is you have to go through a phase of coaching sessions that showcase that they walk you through in each call how to actually become ready for capital. If you don't have any funds in your current bank account, or if you don't have a business bank account, getting that set up, making sure that you're doing all the right things. If there's a small credit card that you can get that shows that you have a revolving credit, or that you have something that you're paying off consistently, that's all these businesses are looking for, is that showcase that you can actually pay off the loan when it comes to that. And so you're having these coaching classes that kind of walk you step by step. So by the time you get to that end of that class, you can go to a regular bank. You can go to a credit union, and being able to showcase, sure, you might not have been in business for 2 years, but you have shown throughout each month that you're making the decisions and the efforts to be able to pay that back, and your business is growing in an increment that shows that you can pay it back. And that's really what the underwriters are looking for at the end of the day. So those are just a couple of things that people can do to kind of get capital ready.
And because of the background that we have in stocks and equities, and even now with financial services, I would say in kind of that AI movement that you were talking about, let's get creative and you think of the tools that we could use. Like, so we all know of what we call the variable market as far as the ups and downs in the stock market. But there are people in different programs like Earn Your Leisure or the Come Up series that teach about how we can take a small amount of capital that we have. This is after you've done your budgeting, you've seen what money you have left aside, and you say, okay, look, similar to what you were just saying, Richard, I'm gonna risk it. I gotta go in for it. If you're gonna go in for it, you know what you're risking, and you take that investment and you could put it into something like a variable account in the stock market, and you're trying to scale your money to numbers that you've already pre-planned that lets you know how much capital you need for your business, right? So that's one way to do it in a variable account, but you're studying, you're learning the market, and you're getting a grasp on what you're willing to take a risk on and what your risk tolerance is. And you're educating yourselves with people that you feel that you can trust in their advice. But if we were going to approach that differently and in a safer route, we could use things like life insurance to scale our businesses. A lot of times people look at, when we got into this game, and that's why we call ourselves wealth architects, we didn't know that there were places that you could put your money and you were guaranteed not to lose the principal and you could scale year over year. Now, if you're trying to get a business off the ground right away or immediately, maybe you want to come together with a group of people that see your vision, right? And then you want to get into what we call a banking system with them, which could be used in something like an index universal life policy. And you're saying, hey, look, collectively, let's put $1,000 a month into this. Now, that may be three of you that are going to put $350 or something like that into the policy together, but you've only got one friend that's insured, but maybe you guys all own the policy together through a business that's the beneficiary. And I'm just getting creative on how to raise capital right now. And then we're putting in this money. We're saying we need X amount of dollars put in this, but we know that this policy, this banking system, or what it's technically called, this IUL, Index Universal Life Policy, has indexing attached to it. Indexing meaning I'm attached to the stock market, but I can only experience the rises of the stock market, and I can't experience the falls because the insurance company is guaranteeing me that I won't lose my principal. So dollar after dollar you put in, you can never lose more than what you put in, but your money's indexing. You calculate how long, based on the percentage of return that you're getting on those 6 months, those 3 months, or that year, how long it would take you to raise the capital that you're going to need to start your business, right? Now, once you have gotten close to that, you take out loans from yourself on that policy as a business team. The loans are tax-free. And as your business grows, you pay your business back. Now you have successfully used a life insurance policy to build your business, and you didn't take on any risk in doing that because your principal was always protected. If we get creative with the knowledge that we have and that we're seeking out, we can find ways to do this. And if we pool funds as a community, as a family, or as individuals that have a vision together, we can achieve a lot more. And it's kind of like what we've been built on as African Americans. We had to do more with less. So, but if we do this within an ecosystem, we can change the generational wealth gap or the racial wealth gap that exists right now. We can change it in one generation. We just have to get thinking outside of the box. And I think AI tools help with thinking outside of the box.
Last question. People sometimes, it's all about financial literacy. A lot of people, they want to make money and all that, but not too many people, I think, know the difference between making money and building wealth. Talk to us about that.
Go ahead, Che.
Making money and building wealth. I think making money can be short term. It can be something that you have accumulated pretty fast, but you're also spending it fast. I think wealth is all about having a long-term vision for what your money's supposed to be doing for you. So essentially, it's one thing to become a star athlete and all of a sudden you have millions of dollars and nobody in your family, you're the first person to truly break that barrier in your family of, let's say, 7 figures, right? But if you're only spending those things on depreciating assets, you're making money, but money's also pouring out fast. People that generate wealth understand at some point either their money needs to make money for them or their money needs to hire people that are going to make money for them. Your money needs to be circulating in a way where it's always bringing you revenue back. I think too often we find ourselves just wanting to spend money out, but we're not putting it in the buckets that it should go in. So let's think of it like this. We'll take a basketball analogy, right? And we just did this with our niece when we were showing her how to budget to turn herself into a banking system. The goal of the ball in a basketball game is to get in the bucket. That's how you score points. So when you're thinking of getting wealthy, you need to get more buckets. But the ball is the currency the ball is what allows you to do that. If you're only just dribbling the ball and you're kind of on your and one, you're just showing off your dribbling skills, you're not getting the ball to where it needs to go. If you're spending too much money, you're turning the ball over. So you're allowing somebody to take what's supposed to get buckets for you and allow them to put that in their hoop. What we need to do is figure out when we have money, where does it need to go so that it generates more money? That over time will build wealth. When we talk about tools like indexing, it's not that we're so in love with the insurance companies as much as this is a way that you protect what you have already earned and you can scale that capital and you can scale it in a way that that capital will outlive you and quite literally by contractual guarantee gets passed on to the next generation that you choose for it to get passed on to. Now, when you pass that wealth on to them, there needs to be an ecosystem in place that says what they can and can't do with that money. A lot of this comes from trust or wills. And when we talk to a lot of the people in our community, we have neither. We don't have a will, we don't have a trust, we have no ecosystem. The family has given no playbook of what to do with the assets that they're leaving behind. And a lot of those kids end up selling them, which would be a turnover unless you know what you're going to do with the money that you're receiving from what you just sold. But if you have no idea and you just go on vacations and trips with it, or you just buy things that are depreciating, you're not creating wealth. You had short time riches, but that going to have downturn in the long run if you're just spending it. We have to get our money into the right buckets where our money makes money. So we have to know the tools that allow us to do that. And a large part of that, the financial literacy portion of that, is just understanding how does money work. And when we can teach you how money works, there are three philosophies of money. There's fixed money, like what you have in your savings account, which is a flat rate. And we would call that dead money in financial services. There's variable accounts, which is what you see in the stock market, which your pensions, your 401ks are connected to, but that goes up and down depending on where you're at in life. Say like retirement, you don't want to take that risk. If you're younger, you might want to take that risk. And then there's indexing. Indexing is going to stair step you to where you want to be. You have to use one of these three tools or a combination of them to understand exactly how you're going to achieve wealth and then pass that wealth on to the next generation.
You wanted to add something?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll end with this. And I hear this philosophy that, and I take this philosophy to heart. But the philosophy is when you give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, um, he won't learn anything. But if you teach him how to fish and you feed him, then you feed him for a lifetime, right? And so I think a part of the wealth portion versus making money is about teaching the knowledge, the skills, the assets, and really showing our youth, really, because that's that next generation how to actually accumulate, how to keep it, um, how to save, how to grow, and the different skills and knowledge that come along with that. Those are a kind of like a three-dimensional approach, which I love Doug Andrews, and I follow a lot of the stuff that he talks about when it comes to this book called Abolition Entitlement, where we're teaching our children, consistently how to be able to um, build businesses, whatever their interest is, giving them that the comprehension skills to be able to keep it for generations. And so when I think of the word wealth, it also comes along with not just the financial piece, but also the how, the why, the when, and being able to build on those skills that you've gained every single year. That's
Okay.
it.
Where can people follow you and learn more about you guys?
Yeah, they can find us. Our clothes right now, our website is iamculturex.com, we're rebranding. So you can find us also at legacyx.com. You can find us on all social media platforms under Brea and Che Davis. We are one account because we are one body, one mind, one sound. But yeah, that's how you can find us.